What's something disturbing about your parents that completely stunned you when you discovered it? How bad their marriage? Some parents can hide that stuff from their kids really well, or those kids have been programmed to believe in the happy marriage thing that they just don't see it. I'm still not sure what it was in my case. They had a child 2 years before I was born. Mom was a HS sophomore, Dad a junior. She was given up for adoption. 2 years later, at Mom's senior prom, I was conceived. Mom and Dad got married, had 2 more kids. Never, ever mentioned the firstborn. Mom told us about it on Her sister is now part of the family. Weird and abnormal, but part of the family. Finding out my mom used to be a competitive knife thrower in college blew my mind. I found out that my mom intentionally got pregnant with me. I'm her only child by a homeless alcoholic man when she was 27 because she wanted a baby. She didn't care about who the father was. Then I found out that my stepdad has a history of cocaine addiction. He recovered and developed a gambling addiction, which is an issue to this day. He also had my mom helping him with fraud when they first got together. My mom is still married to my stepdad, who is also a full-blown hoarder. The house I was raised in is a hellhole. My mom used my identity for some credit cards when I was younger. I ended up going to court over one line of credit. I knew nothing about it until my mom was like, "So you need to go to court tomorrow." She got very angry when I became upset and called her shady. Basically tried to twist it around that I was wrong for making her feel bad for stealing my identity. It took years for me to repair my credit. I'm 35 now and keep contact minimal. I dream of going no contact, but my guilt and desire for family keeps me from doing so. They've never been loving or supportive really. I should cut ties entirely. Had some things on his deathbed while delirious that probably indicates he may have done some secret work for the government back in the day with a well-known organization. I mean, there were signs, but until that happened we didn't really take it seriously. Might explain his month-long overseas trips in the 60s and 70s. Still, we have no conclusive proof, but I'm pretty sure where there is smoke there is fire. It's a weird thing to find that out when he dies and then wonder how well did I know my dad? It's quite the secret to keep all these years. Pretty sure my dad groomed my mom. My dad had a family and 3 kids when he met my mom, who was dating his stepson. She was 15 years old at the time and he started seeing each other in secret for the next 7 years, while he was still with his wife. He was a bus driver and she'd skip school to ride the bus all day with left his wife when my mom got pregnant with my oldest sister at 22 and they moved in together and got married. 4 kids later, I'm the youngest. He never saw his first 3 kids again and I met them for the first time at his funeral. We are estranged from all our extended family, for obvious reasons. It took me to be 30 years old to fill in the gaps on what happened. I have huge mixed feelings about them together, as I love them both, but the grooming aspect makes me feel a little ill. Whom I love very much and who has a very problematic and fucked up younger sister, was also a bully to that sister. My other aunt, the eldest sister, told me that as a kid she found a recording my mom made, where she was telling the other aunt how she is worthless, how she should die. Just super nasty psycho stuff that I find completely out of character. It's bizarre. Mother lied to the family about having terminal, told my younger sister on the day of her prom that she was dying. It then extended to the entire family. She had a history of bad lies and making stuff up. The family however treated it seriously, given the nature of what she said. We had a goodbye party and celebration for her. It was emotional, it was a really big. Later said, miraculously the cancer had vanished and the specialist was absolutely gobsmacked. We didn't believe her really, but we took her at face value. I later had a cancerous brain tumor. I went through surgery and radiotherapy, got to know the routine of how having cancer impacts everything in your life. Physio, follow-up appointments, scans, bloods, absolutely everything they can test. They do so to make sure it's contained and doesn't spread. This threw into question my former mother's own patchy testimony, what she went through. 0 follow-up appointments, no letters from oncologists, nothing to evidence this treatment. I called her out on it, and she stood her ground, not admitting it. It really hurts given what I've been through that she could do me and the family think happened. Is she went to get a scan or a test done for something that could have been cancer. She, as a textbook narcissist, used this for sympathy before getting any results, and the follow-up with the specialist was her saying that it was not cancerous and nothing to worry of. My immediate family speak to her. She's toxic and pure evil. I don't wish ill on any people, but I hope she dies alone. She doesn't deserve to emotionally manipulate anyone else ever. Oh my gosh, I did not expect this reaction. Mind blown. Thank you so much for your lovely and encouraging words. It's truly overwhelming. Sometimes the internet is a great place. Smiley face. Love to you all. My mother started telling me that I had to get married by 18 and even found a man whom she wanted me to marry. It was a whole ass shit show. My 40s, and as my parents age, the occasional nuclear truth bomb gets dropped. I am lucky to have a sibling who lived through the same madness to corroborate what happened and that I am not insane. A good one was my dad was addicted to amphetamines for a good bit of my elementary and early middle school years. Another one was my mom cheated on my dad when I was a baby. The main only reason he stayed with her was because he didn't think he could raise 2 kids on his own, and he didn't want to leave us with my mom. I think deep down he held it against me, being the second kid, that he was stuck in an unhappy marriage, and it has impacted our relationship for my entire life. It also gave me instant perspective that I was unable to find during years of therapy. Many things. Maybe the one that sticks out is my dad moved my family to another state because he got caught up in a government whistleblower harassment scandal. None of us knew until I googled him one day and his name came up in congressional testimony. I wasn't stunned he was harassing someone, but I was stunned my mom had no idea it happened. Mom once thought about killing herself with me and my friend in the car. Says she looked in the rearview mirror and couldn't do it. Went home and cried. Mom's first fiancé was killed in action during the Vietnam War a few years before she met my dad. Parents got divorced when I was 5 and remarried when I was 7. They didn't tell me or my sister. When they remarried they did a ceremony that my little cousin who we were very close to was a part of, and they warned him to never tell us he was 6 at the time. I only found out they had divorced from a family friend when I was 14 years old because they assumed I already knew. They got divorced again when I was 17. Found out my dad was seriously considering suicide at one point just before my parents' divorce. Not that my mom was at all abusive, he just felt very alone. Glad to say he's still here and doing much better, but that definitely was a shock to hear and reframed how I looked at all of that. Mom had an affair around the time I was conceived and I am not 100% sure who my father is, and I won't take a DNA test until they are both dead because I'm afraid of the results. My dad is dead, and regardless of the results he will always be my dad even if he wasn't in fact my biological father. I would have no interest in reaching out to the other guy because it would be pointless and only cause heartache for me. Discovering that my parents had vastly different political beliefs than I originally thought was quite stunning. Growing up, they seemed to agree on most things, but as I got older, I realized they held contrasting views on significant political and social issues. 14 dead 24 I found out the one and only time they shared how they met. Some witnesses were visiting. Their cool kids were trying not to be bored playing Monopoly with my brother and me. My parents were in the next room with their parents chatting, laughing, having a wholesome time. The 2 kids asked to see my room again to look at my music or probably literally anything but Monopoly. They were being snobby because I was not someone they wanted to befriend. I couldn't joke or anything with them like with my friend who was a witness. As we walked through, Dad is asked to tell how he and Mom met. I stop at my door to watch and listen because I had never heard this out. My dad was an electrician on a job for my grandfather. He saw my mom walking outside to go to school and they started flirting. That's as far as the story got because of the questions the other couple interjected with about her age. I went in my room and one of the kids followed me and loudly said, "Dude, they are never gonna let me come over again. Your dad is a pedo." By the standards of that time when they met, I am not sure, but yeah. Common sense standards. Which should have always been the standard.